Welcome back to Finance for Firefighters. Today we're going to talk about increasing your income. We're going to look at overtime, we're going to look at contracts, and we're going to look at side hustles. Firefighters are experts at working overtime, but how well do you know your contract? Most of us leave thousands of dollars on the table every year just because we haven't read through it and we don't know all the nuances of it. So we'll dive into some examples of some stuff that can actually save you money, things you may be missing right now. By the end of this episode, you know how to find hidden pay in your contract, how to use overtime in a strategic way, and how to use side gigs and all that extra money you're making without burning yourself out. Most firefighters get stuck in the same pattern. You work more, you pay more taxes, you spend more, and then you need more. Then you keep repeating that cycle and you get stuck on this hamster wheel. But here's the truth. You can often make more money without working more shifts, simply by knowing your contract and being strategic about the way in which you work. I'm going to go through a 6-step action plan so that way you can make the most out of the hours that you normally work without having to force yourself to work more. Number one, know your contract. For us, we have several different things layered in our contract that allow us to make more money just based on certain things that we can apply for and just fill out paperwork and qualify for. So one of those is education incentive. For us, if you have an associate's degree, you automatically get 2.5% as long as you fill out the paperwork for it. If you have a bachelor's degree, you have 5%. The same thing, equivalent hours equates to the same thing. And then for us also, you get an additional 2.5% on top of both of those if you complete 48 hours of training in the required time frame during that year. And then after a certain period of time for us, it being 5 years, you can get locked in at either that 5% or that 7.5% for education incentive. We also have something called alternative benefits. Basically what this is the city will pay our employees if we're not on the city's healthcare, right? The city typically pays for our healthcare. So if you are off the city's plan, they will pay you instead of paying the insurance company for you. This is a good deal for them. They end up paying less because if you're covered by either your spouse's insurance or if you're young and you're under the age of 26 and you're still covered underneath your parents' insurance, you can get alternative benefits. We also qualify for something called a bilingual pay. And if that, you have to pass a written test and a actual verbal test, and then you're able to bump up your incentives that way also. Specialty pays are also common with many departments. So things like hazmat, EMT, paramedic, technical rescue, boat operator, any other kinds of things like that require certain amounts of classes for specialties. As long as you fill out the required paperwork and you meet those required minimums, you're able to get other incentives on top of that. We also have longevity pay. Starts at 15 years, and you get 2% at 15 years. Every year after that, up to the 25th year of service, you get an additional 1%. So a max of 12% over that period of time. For you, your responsibility for all of these pays is to just double check that your hire date with payroll and with HR is correct, so you qualify for things like longevity pay, and you fill out the paperwork required for education incentives, bilingual pay, all those other things that you may have to apply for so that you're not missing out on that money. Most folks don't realize that by bumping up these incentives, not only does it increase your hourly rate, it'll also increase your overtime rate on top of that. So if your hourly rate is higher, then your overtime rate is 1.5 times the higher amount. So your overtimes are actually more than what they would be normally. It also affects your pension. Many of these things are purgeable. So if you have a lot of these things maxed out before you retire and you're able to hit your last highest year, or in the case of the PEPRA members, your highest average of the top 3 years, you're going to bump up a lot of those numbers significantly just by having some of these incentives put in there. Number two, we're going to talk about FLSA. FLSA is Fair Labor Standards Act, and this is basically overtime that's calculated into the normal work that you already do. It's federal overtime. And this is all based on depending on your schedule and when you actually work these days. For us, we make shift calendars every bid. And so for us, every year, you can see on when your FLSA high cycles are. What that means is that if you work in excess of 212 hours during that period of time because of how your days line up, you actually get overtime built into it. Now, these overtime ranges obviously are based on your hourly rate. So another reason to have those incentives and stuff built into it, or your for that raise or whatever. But if you end up hitting those FLSA high cycles, typically they are 2 to 3 per year. If you hit those FLSA high cycles, every one of them that you hit over that 28-day period ends up bumping up your pay by an additional $700 to $1,500, depending on what you make. So if you have 2 to 3 of those per year, you're looking at an additional several $1,000s just by meeting those FLSA days. So there is a catch to working those FLSA days. You have to work the days you're actually working. A couple exceptions if you need the days off would be you can't use the vacation, you can't use sick time, you can't use leave with pay, comp time, any of those other things the department would put you off for. But you could use trades as long as you meet certain requirements. If you need the days off and you trade the days off As long as you've worked them during that certain period, you will qualify for the FLSA cycle also. So with a little bit of strategic planning, and you meet all these FLSA cycles, you're looking at several $1,000s more per year. Depending on how much you make, you're looking at several percent per year just by scheduling your days and planning ahead a little bit. Number 3, the 50-50 rule, or half invest, half enjoy rule. Every time you get extra money coming in, either through overtime or because you've worked on your budget or anything else like that, take half of that money and invest it, either through your 457s, your Roths, or a brokerage account, something like that. And then take the other half and spend it on fun. Do something nice for your family, go on a vacation. If you work things in this way, you're going to be building wealth, but then you're also not going to be burning yourself out. Number 4, keep overtime optional, not required for survival. If you're only making your budget because you're working overtime, you're already in a bad position. It's a weak foundation, and you're not going to be able to build wealth in the same way that somebody else is if they're using it strategically. Ask yourself this question: which firefighter would you rather be? The one that has to work overtime to be able to pay the bills, or the firefighter that works overtime strategically, pays their house off earlier, is able to retire several years earlier? Pretty easy. Number 5, having side gigs with a strategy. So teaching classes, if you're into that, any other kind of side business that you do, if you're into carpentry or if you're into woodworking, if you're into welding, whatever those different types of things are, if you do those side gigs, you're able to make a little extra money from them. You're able to buy tools and do things that you already need to, that you're already purchasing, and you can actually write a lot of that kind of stuff off. Make sure that when you're doing these kinds of things, you're also you're saving the amount of money that you may be required for some of that extra income, depending on how you're structured for this. So if it's 1099 income, save 25 to 30% of the money that you bring in, so you're able to pay taxes when that money's due. Other episodes, I've spoken specifically about some of those tax benefits that you have from a side business. There's also significant tax benefits as far as being a real estate professional, which can actually lower your W-2 income. So check out those other episodes for more specifics on that. Number 6, avoid burnout. Now, money doesn't mean anything if you're injured, sick, pissed off, family's in a bad spot because you've been working too much and you're in a position to where you actually can't avoid it. We don't want to live to work. We want to work to live, right? So the entire reason you have your job and your side businesses and all the other kinds of things that you do is for your family. You have nothing if you don't have that. So keep your eye on that. Now let's go through some common questions. Will I get taxed to death working overtime? No. For the first $25,000 and up until 2028, the federal portion of that is tax-free. Past that, marginal tax rates do apply. But right now, we do have a unique ability to take advantage of some of the federal taxes being reduced for us. How do I find out what's in my contract? Well, nothing substitutes reading it. But a lot of that's pretty dry legal jargon, and you're probably not super interested in doing that. I still encourage you folks to do that. I think there's nothing that substitutes doing that. But there are other things you can do. One thing is to just get involved with your local. If you haven't been involved as a shift rep, e-board member, union officer, any of those kinds of things, the more involved you get, you're going to have to read through it and answer questions and have to figure out interpretations and stuff of it for your membership. So that's a good way of doing it. Another way right now is for using AI. And AI is a great tool. If you throw your contract into AI and say, hey, what benefits can I get from this? It'll actually spit all that kind of stuff out for you, and it'll give you a great summary. What's the best side hustle? Well, the answer to that is the best one that works best for you. So the one that I would say would be something that is something you enjoy and it's something that won't cause burnout for you. So if you like welding, maybe it's welding. If you like woodworking, maybe it's woodworking. If you're into real estate and flipping houses and things like that, doing some construction on the side, maybe that's the best side gig for you. Don't just work harder, work smarter. Okay, your contract already has built-in raises and all sorts of things as a part of it, right? So get to know those things, take advantage of them, couple that with FLSA, use overtime strategically, maybe get a side hustle going. If you do all these small little things early in your career and have a good recipe for this as you move forward, you're going to really find how successful you can become just by incorporating some of these basic things at an early stage. If you're a little older in your career and you haven't started in this kind of stuff, it's never too late to start. You know, the benefits you have of maxing out your contract and some of those FLSA things can really make a significant difference in your retirement for what your pension makes. So I'd encourage you folks to look into it too. Download the Increasing Your Income quick guide in the description below. Subscribe for more firefighter specific financial strategies that actually work. Thanks for joining me on Finance for Firefighters. Same as always. Hope you guys have a good shift. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one.